Okay, this is a quick demo of how to build a grid in Adobe Illustrator. Illustrator does not have an automated grid building tool the way that Adobe InDesign does, but this is a fairly fast and very accurate technique for building a grid. So we're going to create a new file. I'm going to start with a 36 pica square artboard, meaning 36 picas wide, 36 picas tall. And I have an artboard that looks like this. If I zoom to 100% size and turn on my rulers, view, rulers show rulers, also Command R toggles showing and hiding the rulers. I want to create a grid, and here are my grid specs. So we have a 36 pica square artboard. We're going to have 3 pica margins on the top, left, and right, and a 4 pica margin on the bottom. We're going to have a 4x4 grid, which means 4 columns, 4 rows, with 1 pica gutters. Gutters are the spaces between columns and rows in a multi-column modular grid. Okay, so you can, first of all, you can drag guidelines down or from the left from the rulers in Illustrator. We're going to do a lot of this, and basically what you do is you click on the ruler, hold it down on your mouse, and drag down, and you will get a guide. You need to drag it down onto the artboard. You can do it manually. I just dragged a guide to 4 picas down from the top. You can do it just by eyeballing it against the ruler. Just a note, the ruler defaults to its 0, 0 point being in the top left corner. This means this is 0 horizontally, this is 0 vertically. So this means we're measuring 4 picas down from the top, 4 picas over from the left hand corner. I don't really like to eyeball things because it's a computer. We can be as precise as we need to be. We don't have to do things by eye when we're using a computer. If you open your transform palette, which is down here, you can adjust the position of anything. So, this note, for example, right now I just moved it into the top left corner here. It's basing it on a reference point of the top left corner of this box. So this means my X, which is horizontal, is 0. My Y, which is vertical, says it's negative 4.5 points. I can set this to 0. And what it just did, it made the bounding box of my text at 0, 0. Like if I make it OP3, and OP3, you'll see this bounding box is at 3 points over from the left, 3 points down from the right. If I make it 5 picas, that is 5 picas over from the left, and I just made that 2.5 picas down from the top. Everything is based on wherever your 0, 0 point is, and the 0, 0 point, or this origin point, defaults to be the top left corner of your artboard. So you have control over any item. You can have super precise control over any items in Illustrator using this transform palette. By default, guides are locked, which is a good thing. It means once you put a guide down, you can't accidentally move it around. But sometimes you want to move it around. So you go to your View, Guides, unlock the guides. Now if I select it, I can control exactly. Now I did put it exactly at 4 picas on the x-axis. If I select this one, you see it's exactly 4 picas on the y-axis. I just managed to be super precise first time out. Lucky me. However, I'm going to move my notes off the artboard just so that we can concentrate on creating this right. However, you'll see that even though I was super precise, I was incorrect. I need 3 pica margins on the top, left, and right. So here to here, I want a 3 pica margin. So I can go in here and I can enter 3p, get it exact. I can go over here, go 4p. I'm sorry, it is at 4p. I can enter 3p, get it exact. Now, this is where it starts to get tricky, and you start needing to do some math. If I need a 3 pica margin on the right, and my document is 36 picas, well, that math isn't that hard. That means I need a rule at 33 picas. And I managed to hit that precisely. But now, you know, what if you don't feel like doing math? We're designers, we don't necessarily like to do a lot of math, we think visually. That's fine, but we still need to be precise. That's a huge part of being a designer. Now, I, in my career, have always tried to balance a need to be very, very precise and a desire to be as precise as possible. This is a very good thing for a designer. So I try to balance that desire with the fact that I'm pretty lazy and I want to do things the easiest way possible. So I want the easiest way to be as absolutely precise as I can. You might think that these are conflicting interests, but it's actually a great combination because it means I obsess on what is the exact easiest way to get things as perfect as possible. And this is a very simple technique that is great for measuring things like this. It's to use the rectangle tool, and if you click once on the artboard with the rectangle tool, you'll get this dialog, which will tell you which will give you fields in which you can enter the exact size of the rectangle you want to draw. So I want to draw a 3 pica square. 3 picas wide, 3 picas tall. That's what I got. I'm going to color it. I'm going to give it a. Let's give it a nice orange fill, just so that we can see it really easily. Now what this is a measurement rectangle. This is not going to be part of my art. I've just drawn a perfect 3 pica rectangle. Oops, and I'm going to measure with it. Now just as a quick note, I am demonstrating this in Adobe Illustrator Creative Cloud. which is roughly equivalent to Adobe CS7. So a few of the interface may look slightly different if you have an older version. A few of the controls may look a little bit different. However, the technique I'm showing you here can be used in any vector drawing program that has precise controls. Okay, so there's my 3 pica square. I've dragged it into my corner. I can see in my transform palette that its top left corner is at 0, 0, and it is exactly 3 picas wide. And lo and behold, the 2 guides that I've drawn line up with it exactly, as they should. Now I can use this to measure from the right side. Line it up with the right side, and I can drag a guide over there to snap to that. So instead of actually doing the math of doing my artboard size minus the margin width over here, I just used this as a measurement tool. Now I can do the same thing for the bottom, except on our bottom margin we have a 4 pica margin. So now I'm going to transform this in the transform palette to make the height 4 picas. Okay? Now, excuse me, if the height and width transform together, if you go to enter 4 picas and something like that happens where it becomes a larger perfect square, that means you have this link icon clicked. If the chain is whole, that means it will constrain the width and height. You can unclick that to give it a different width and height. Alright, so now I have a 3 pica wide brick that is also 4 picas tall. I'm going to drag down a guide there. I'm going to pull this brick off the artboard for a minute, and you can see that I have guides that represent my my 4 page margins. This black line is the edge of the artboard. These 4 guidelines represent the margins. So it's not the edge of the paper, this is the edge of my grid that I'm going to build. Now, it's the same thing with the grid inside. We basically want to divide it evenly in 4 horizontally and vertically. But we want to leave room for gutters, which is a very thin space between our columns and between our rows. So we can sit here and we can do a bunch of math and figure that out. But I'm going to show you an easier way to do this using the computer to do the math for you. So you take the rectangle tool, you draw a box that snaps to your guides on all 4 sides. In this case, my box will be 30 picas wide, and this should be 29 picas tall. Looks like I had a little fraction of a point extra. You can go in here and correct it. It's great to be as precise as humanly possible when you're first building the grid, because the grid is like the foundation of a house. No matter how careful you are when you're building the house, if your foundation is not level, the house is not going to be level. So we want to build a level foundation, which means, in this case, building a very, very precise grid. Now, we need 4 columns and 3 gutters between each of the columns. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the transform palette to divide this. Divide the width, divide the height. But before I divide it into parts, I'm going to remove the width of the gutters. So a 4-column grid means that we have 3 gutters, so I'm going to go in here and do the math and do minus 3p, because each gutter is going to be 1 pica. All right, so I've removed 3 picas from the width. I'm going to do the same thing from the height, minus 3p. Okay, so now this box represents the width of 4 columns, the height of 4 rows, minus the gutters. Now I can go in and divide by 4. Divide the width by 4, divide the height by 4. Now I have the size of 1 square in my modular grid. I can copy that square 3 times because I want 4 columns. I can select all 4 of them, and I can do a horizontal distribute center. And this will space them completely evenly horizontally. I can use that to drag guides over. And now I've built my 4 columns. Now I can move my 4 squares to line them all up vertically. I want this top one to align to the top margin. I want this bottom one to align to my bottom margin. I can select all 4 of these. Make sure that the guides are locked. If you can see here, my bottom guide got selected when I selected those 4. If you make sure your guides are locked, then that won't happen. I can draw around boxes, guides will not get selected. I can go to this vertical distribute center, and that spaced these 4 perfectly evenly. I had almost spaced them correctly just by eye, so I'm going to do it a little more extremely so that you can really see. So I have these 2 are almost touching, these 2 are overlapping, this one is where it needs to be. What the distribute center does is it assumes that you have the top one and the bottom one where you want them to be, and it spaces out everything, all the selected items evenly between those 2 positions. So vertical distribute center, ta-da, perfectly spaced. Now I can use this as the basis for my rows. Okay, now I have built guidelines. I can take these bricks or these spacing blocks and I can move them off my artboard so they won't print and they won't show up. And you can see now I have my page grid built in Illustrator, built out of guidelines. 4 columns, 4 rows, 1 pica gutters between each. And that is a quick, relatively simple and precise way to build a grid in Illustrator.